truth, yeah, ruthless truth. Get down, it could go bad for you. Hit like, comment, subscribe, you know what to do. Be cool, city lights shining so bright. Fine dining nights feels right. Flights to places far from sight. Get right, ruthless truth, yeah, ruthless truth. Get down, it could go bad for you. In the city where we move, stay cool. Underneath the neon glow, life is fast but take it slow. Every moment like a show. Let's go. Dancing through the night, we got energy flows we can't hide. Feel alive, we outside. Moments fleeting but we shine. In this rhythm we align. Time flies. Moments fleeting but we shine. In this rhythm we align. Time flies. Ruthless fleeting but we shine. In this rhythm we align. Time flies. Ruthless truth, yeah, ruthless truth. Get down, it could bad for you. In the city where we move, stay cool. Stay cool.
Hey, nobody bigger than the program.
YouTube, I think I've cracked the case. Well, I ain't really crack it, but I believe I have the best theory on all the internet. I figured at least where they're making their mistakes. So we're going to go back. I got a video here, and it's going to tell us everything right here where they're going wrong. Here we go. This is Annie's husband. And Annie, this is the breakdown of what happened, of all the things leading up to the supposedly kidnapping, right? I have figured. Well, I should have been an FBI agent. Shit. Let's break this down. Let's go.
All right. So now we get to the night everything changed, Saturday, January 31st, 2026. This is the part where the story goes from normal family evening to something went terribly wrong. And Tommaso Cioni ends up right in the middle of it. Not because he did anything flashy, but simply because he was the last one to see Nancy Guthrie alive and well. Let's walk through what we know from the official timeline the sheriff's office laid out. They even put up a graphic at a press conference on February 5th. It starts around 5:32 p.m. Nancy, who's 84 and doesn't drive much anymore, takes an Uber over to Annie and Tommaso's house in Tucson. That's her older daughter Annie, Savannah's big sister, and her husband Tommaso. They live pretty close, just a few miles away in the Catalina Foothills area. It's a typical family night, dinner, probably some games, or just hanging out, chatting, the kind of thing grandparents love. Nothing out of the ordinary shows up in any reports about that part. Then, later in the evening, Tommaso drives her back home. The exact time gets pinned down pretty tight by the garage door records. The garage door opens at 9:48 p.m. when she arrives. Sheriff Chris Nanos said in multiple statements, including to the New York Times, that Tommaso made sure Nancy got inside safely before he left.
Now this is where they fucked up. This is where they fucked up. Let's break that down right there. Now let's take it all together. Number one is they can find no footage of the body being moved from the house. Right? Meaning the only way they could have moved the body was out the front door because that's where the blood was at. There's no camera footage Nowhere. Neighbors, block, no footage of the cars these guys were driving. They have no footage of the kidnapping, right? So how did they verify that he dropped her off? She never went home. She never made it to the house. She never made it in the house. That's why they're going crazy, because they don't understand how did they kidnap this lady and not no camera, no neighbor's camera, nobody's seen any car or the body being moved, because she never went home that night. It's real simple. The son-in-law probably got in the car. This is what happened. They probably was talking, having a conversation. They spiked her drink. They probably spiked her drink. She fell asleep, knocked out. They put her in another car and took her somewhere else. But they gave them careful instructions to make sure that they go through the process. So they got in the car, him and Annie. Annie posing as Nancy drove to the house, opened the garage, right? Bam, then closed the garage. And that's what they told the cop. And then the sheriff said that he made sure she was in tight. How could the sheriff make this claim when nobody has footage of the body being moved out the house? And they found blood on the doorstep. They found blood in front of the door. But nobody's seen anybody get taken outside. No cameras. So how do they know that she was going home? How do you know he dropped her off? There's no proof. There's no verification. They never verified that he actually dropped her off. Simple. Easy map. I should have been an FBI agent. Rufus broke the code. She never made it home. The people who came, so this is a theory. This is my theory. Okay? So once they drugged her, put her to sleep, another car came. They put her in that car. They took her out, disposed of her body, drew blood from her, everything. And then the son-in-law and Annie processed the house, like pretending that they was dropping off the mother, knowing that all the cameras were not working. They had all this planned out. The whole neighborhood might be involved in this. They played like they dropped the mother off, right? Opened the garage. They hit the garage door opener. Annie probably walked to the house in the garage and then walked back out to the car, and boom. Who the fuck goes in her house to the garage? Why would Nancy not go in her front door? Why would she not go to the front door? She got the key. She didn't drive. Stepson or the son-in-law dropped her off, supposedly. But guess what? They have no verified cameras because none of the cameras were working or the footage was erased. So there's no verified. They could not verify that they never seen him drop Nancy off. So this is why they're going in circles. This is why they're chasing the tail, because the crime scene was never at the house. That was a deflection. The blood was a deflection. The guy went back there. That's why he had the gun. Listen, if this was just a kidnap, let's just say this was regular kidnap. What did the guy for that? They would have went in there, took that. They would have went in there, took her, and fled off. And just like they had that guy, the picture of that guy doing that with the camera, they would have had that body going out that house. They had seen him taking that body out that house because they went out the front door. But they never went out the front door. They just put the blood there. They planted the blood. They planted the blood. Think about it. Think about it. If you kidnap an 84-year-old lady, you don't need to do much to detain her. You don't need to do much. What you need blood for? Right? You can choke her out. Right? And number one is you don't want if you're trying to get a ransom, you don't want to any violence or anything, because she can die. She's damaged goods. See what I'm saying? This is all the crime scene at Nancy house is a deflection. It's all a deflection. Nancy never made it home. She never seen that house again. On January 31st, she did not make it in the house. Because how could they verify it? She said it was verified. How'd you verify it when they couldn't verify if the body left the house? Right? If they'd have verified her walk in the house, they could have verified them taking the body out the house. It'd have been the same thing, right? Because now they're going back, asking all the neighbors, hey, check your cameras. See if you guys have footage, anything in the car. Because there is no footage of the guys driving cars, putting the body in a car. Why? Because they was on foot. They was on foot. They never took the body out the house. There was only one guy. It wasn't two guys. They speculated it was two people because they're thinking, well, you have to take the body out the house. No one man could have did that. The body was never in the house. The crime scene at Nancy house was staged. I could put it back on track. I could put you back on track. See, the reason why they're lost a little bit is because they're moving forward. They're moving forward away from the crime scene. The crime scene is probably somewhere else. Right? Why did the guy have the gloves on? Why did the guy have the backpack on? Because in that backpack, and the reason I had the gloves on, to plant evidence of a crime. The pacemaker, all the stuff that they said, they planted that stuff there. They took that back to the house. And then they dropped that blood down there. This is all a deflection. They're deflecting law enforcement. Nancy's house is a deflection. She never set foot in that motherfucker. She never seen that house again at January 31st. She went in another car somewhere else. Somebody came in. This is a conspiracy. Savannah, Annie, the son-in-law, Tomosi, the brother, all of them are involved. This might have been a sacrifice or well, they said Annie, or not Annie, but they said Nancy was getting evidence versus corporations stealing billions of dollars from the medical field. And she had proof and she was building evidence. So I'm guessing maybe one of these guys sent somebody to talk to Savannah, right? And we give you 100 million. Because they grossed 30 billion, 32 billion, right? And we give you 100 million, set your family for life. We just need your mom to disappear. She's a thorn. Because she was drawing attention because Nancy was mount evidence on the pharmaceutical people, on the medical billing and all that stuff. And what they say, for the love of money is the what? Root to all evil. She was 84 years old. She lived a life. They're like, Mom is the greatest. She's been here long enough, right? Easy sacrifice. And they set all of the ransom notes. All that was set up by who? Yours truly, Savannah. Because who had the pull to get them notes to them places, TMZ, and all these news channels? Savannah, she's an anchor for today. I figured this shit out. Boy, I should have been man, they asked me, man, I'm charging 1 million, 1.5 million for this information. I would put them on the right track. They're off track right now. They're chasing their tail. They're chasing the tail. All they keep going back is showing that footage of that camera. The blood drops. Yeah. But there's nothing there. That's not the crime scene. I mean, it is a crime scene because it was probably plant evidence. So I would say that is a crime scene in a way. But it's not where the case starts at. And that's why it doesn't make sense. A lot of stuff is not adding up. What they're saying, first they're saying, well, is it a murder? Did they just go in there and kill him? Why would they give ransom notes? Why would they say ransom notes but not show proof of life? Deflection. Deflection. It was deflection. It threw you off their trail. Nancy Guthrie never made it to her house. She never set foot in the house January 31st. They have no verifiable evidence that she stepped foot inside the house. The sheriff said that the garage opened at a certain time and closed at a certain time, and that the son-in-law made sure he took Nancy in, made sure she's in the house. They couldn't verify that though because they don't even see the body. No cameras were working because nobody knows how the body got taken out. Nobody has seen no cars where the body was taken because she never was in the house. She never made it back to her residence. She was taken in another car. This is a conspiracy. This is involving maybe quite a few people. This might be involving like maybe 10 to 12 people. This is a conspiracy, man. Let's mind this out. Let's mind this out. Let's go back to the video. Let's see what the video. It's right here. Everything's right here. Okay, here we go.
Futhil's area. It's a typical family night, dinner, probably some games, or just hanging out, chatting, the kind of thing grandparents love. Nothing out of the ordinary shows up in any reports about that part. Then, later in the evening, Tommaso drives her back home. The exact time gets pinned down pretty tight by the garage door records. The garage door opens at 9:48 p.m. when she arrives. Sheriff Chris Nano said in multiple statements, including to the New York Times, that Tommaso made sure Nancy got inside safely before he left. The garage door closes 2 minutes later, at 9:50 p.m. That's the last confirmed moment anyone saw her or had.
How could they confirm? How could they confirm that she went to that garage if the cameras weren't working, if they have no footage? They have no proof. They can verify. They can verify the body getting moved out of there. Remember, there was blood in the front door. The blood was in the front door. You found the blood, but you didn't find the body, right? How did they move that body? You mean to tell me they've got them cars in and out of there and none of the neighbors' cameras caught it? Because she never stepped foot in that house. She never stepped foot in that house again. She was taken in a different car from Annie's house. Maybe some guys came in and took her and they went a different direction. And then the son-in-law, Annie, pretended like they was taking their mother home, right? And they hit the garage door open, and then they closed the garage door. But there's no footage on this happening. There's no camera set showing this happening. This is why they keep going back to Nancy's house, because they're trying to figure out how did they get that body and nobody's seen it, because it was never in the house, gentlemen and ladies. It never was in the house. She never left her daughter's house to go back home. Her daughter and whatever sent her into another car, her whoever, and they took her, disposed of her. They took blood from her. They took her pacer. They took that, and then they went back to the house 2 hours later, right? The guy who was messing with the camera, they went back to the house, took all the cameras, destroyed all the cameras, and then what? Planted evidence. They put blood on the front. They sprinkled her blood on the front porch. Then after they sprinkled the blood on the punch, then they put her pacemaker there. Right? That's why they took all the equipment out. And then they were on foot. They hiked all the way down to that house. There was no cars because there was no body. The body was gone. Nancy was going to a place already being disposed of from Annie's house. Because if the cameras, by the time that the report was made that Nancy did not report to church, right? All the cameras, pretty much of the thing that happened on camera, was what? Destroyed. But here's where you guys got to pay attention to. Pay attention. Walk with me now. Walk with me. But neighbors had cameras, and they didn't catch no cars. So that body had to go in a car or some truck or a van. None of that was caught on footage. And this is what's driving the authorities crazy, because the feds, the state are saying, how the fuck did they get the body? And they had not only, they got the cameras down from the house, but the neighbors had cameras too. Now, I know they didn't break all those cameras because the body never touched the house. Nancy never came home that night. This is big, y'all. This is a conspiracy. This is bigger than, it's the family and some bigger guys with a lot of money that's involved in this. Now, I watched the video. Let me see if I can find it. I watched a video earlier where they said Nancy was gathering evidence on a pharmaceutical company and a buildings company to try to take them down. Okay? So maybe somebody approached Savannah with $100 million deal, $200 million, and said, hey, we just need your mom to disappear. We're going to take your mom out. Remember, for the love of money is what? To the root of all evil. That's why if you look at when they asked we will pay the money, they looked it like they didn't even give a fuck. Their body language is like, we're set for life. Mom, it was a great sacrifice. You should not have been nosy. I mean, that's what white people do. They nosy, right? So her mom, 84 years old, with nothing to do but be nosy. And she was mounting evidence on the pharmaceutical companies. So they sent some people at their family, and they all conspired to take out Nancy. So the plan was, take her over to Annie's house, chill, have a good time. They spiked her drink. They probably gave her something and put some spike up in there. She drank the stuff, fell asleep. They took her up out of there. Some guys came in, took her out in another van, and took her to another location, probably dismembered her body, took blood, right? And then they circled back to the house 2 or 3 hours later, right? To plant the evidence. And then guess what? They also sent in those ransom notes. But they're smart. They didn't send it to the Guthries because then they would have like, well, how did they get your information to send this type of? So they sent it to the media outlets. So now, right, the Guthrie family can't be linked to none of this other than, hey, there's somebody asking a ransom for a mom. They didn't send one, but they sent 2 letters. And everybody knows kidnappers don't send 2 letters. You got 1 letter, you got 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. They're not going to send that shit to the news station. They send this shit right to you. You better go to the bank, get this much money out, $6 million, wire that shit in Bitcoin, whatever. You got 1 hour to do this, or your mom, you'll never see her again. And that's how that shit goes. And if you do not make that drop, you'll never see your mom again. Kidnappers is not going through no motherfucking news channel, not going to go to TMZ to make a demand. Because TMZ's automatically calling the fucking police. They're calling the feds because they have no dog in the fight. Who's going to come get them? So we know this was staged. The whole thing was staged because Nancy had to go because she was being nosy. She was being very nosy. And once again, the crime scene starts in Annie's house. That's why they kept going back to Annie's house. They kept going back to Annie's house over and over again. And then Nancy's house. They knew something was going on. But they couldn't figure out like why is we got this blood? Why do we got this? Why do we got that? And we don't have no footage. Why do we have, how did they get that body out? They didn't even have tire tracks. Right? They couldn't even find tire tracks leading to try to, see what kind of vehicles moved the body. Because why? The body never made. I'm willing to bet that Nancy never seen her house on January 31st. She never went back to the house. All the camera evidence was destroyed except for that guy picking at the camera trying to cover it up. So there's no verifiable way to know that he took her home and dropped her off. They didn't verify it. They couldn't verify it because all the cameras were destroyed. Simple math. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. This is why they would never, if they stay in Nancy's house, they would never solve that case. The case starts with the family. They drugged Nancy. I'm betting that Annie drugged Nancy's drink. Knocked her out. These guys came in, picked her up, put her in some van, carried off to dispose of her body. They probably finished her, killed her, disposed of the body, maybe even poisoned her. Disposed of the body, drew blood, took the pacemaker, took the Apple Watch, took it back to the house. They went on foot. They was on foot because they knew not to take no cars through there. If they take cars through there, they're going to get identified. They're smart. These are smart motherfuckers. They went on foot. They hiked it. That's why he had the backpack. And in the backpack was all the stuff, with the blood, the extra stuff they're going to use to plant the evidence to distract the police. That's why the blood, remember the back door was open. The back door was open. But the blood was on the front door. How is that possible? How do you have blood only in the front area of the door, but it does no trail? Because they planted it just like the OJ case. Remember how they planted the blood on the glove? How they planted the blood on OJ, all his property? You can manufacture evidence, sir. Let's get to it. Ruthless, you was a genius. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. And I'm going to say this right here. Y'all heard it here. Ain't nobody else said it this. Nancy Guthrie 84 years old, never made it back home that night. She never seen her house again. And you look at all the news stations, all they keep playing is the guy playing with the camera. And then some guy had 2 backpacks 5 miles away. Because that's where the body was supposed to be. That's where the guys probably were. That's where Nancy was at. Because they got, let's get to this news. Let's go to the news. Let's get to the news. We're gonna find it. They got the guy. Let me see. How they said they said the guy, they found the guy, he had the gloves, right? And 2 backpacks. It's another guy, right? So once again, Nancy was taken from Annie's house. To an undisclosed location. This is the only thing that makes sense. This is the only theory. This is the only theory that I'm presenting to y'all that makes sense. Because my truth is ruthless. She left from Annie's house. They took her and they gave Annie to whoever people they were corroborating with. And Nancy was taken from Annie's house to an undisclosed location. She never made it back home. They're probably going to get $100 million for this, maybe $200 million, maybe more. Because these guys, the pharmaceutical company, have been stealing since the pandemic. So they said over 32 billion. That's enough to take somebody's life. You trying to put people in jail. And all Nancy had to do was just mind her business. But she wanted to take down the world. She wanted to crack the case. Because she just wanted to crack the case, and they figured out. And they took her out through her family. Savannah knows about this. Annie definitely knows about this. The brother knows about this. The son-in-law knows about this. They all know it's a conspiracy. This is a group effort. This is probably between 7 to 8 people involved. The crime scene at Nancy's house is a deflection. If you notice, they're stuck there. They can't move from that area. They think the body's there because the gloves, think about it. Who would take off a glove and throw it in the middle of the, because they want you to stay there. And law enforcement, they're so smart and intelligent and got all these great minds that they can't see they've been led down a path. Somebody came up through those gloves there. And that would happen. Now, that's what the captors wanted. They want the police to stay in that area. And they could keep them in that area. They could dispose of all the evidence. That guy probably that's on camera, he's probably in another country somewhere. He's probably in Italy somewhere chilling. Or in Mexico. He's gone. You won't see him no more. They got him out of these guys are very organized. The FBI and the state local police are going up against a $32 billion organization. That's who's orchestrating this. That's who's orchestrating this. $32 billion pharmaceutical company who Annie was trying to take down. I think I have it. I think I have it in the back. Let me see. I think I have earlier. I remember I looked at it earlier. Let me see. I got the video. I got the video. I got the video. Let me see. I think I'm going to find it in a minute. Here it is right here. Let's listen to this. There we go. This is the video, right? This is the video that was the back. This is the video that everybody's ignoring. Well, not everybody, but most people are ignoring. So we're going to go to this video, and they're going to break down this $32 billion company who wanted Nancy gone. And you're going to see why they wanted Nancy dead. Here we go. Here we go. Right here. Share screen. And let's get to it. Tell me, can y'all hear it?
On February 10th, 2026, surveillance footage emerged from a quiet residential street in Columbus, Ohio. The video shows a figure approaching the home of Nancy Guthrie, a 84-year-old pharmaceutical compliance officer who disappeared on January 28th. The timestamp reads 11:47 p.m. The person moves with deliberate caution, checking the street before stepping onto the property. 38 seconds later, the figure exits the frame. Nancy Guthrie has not been seen since that night. This case landed on the national radar not because of the video itself, but because of what investigators found inside NY's home 3 days after she vanished. Financial documents spread across her dining room table, bank statements showing systematic transfers, communications with federal agencies, and a handwritten ledger tracking what appears to be fraudulent insurance claims totaling nearly $2 million across a pharmaceutical distribution network spanning 7 states. The Columbus Police Department confirmed this morning they've identified a person of interest captured in the surveillance footage. They have not released a name. They have not made an arrest. But according to sources within the investigation speaking on condition of anonymity, the individual in that video is connected to a corporate entity that Nancy Guthrie had been gathering evidence against for the past 11 months. To understand why this matters beyond one missing woman in Ohio, you need to understand what's been quietly building in America's pharmaceutical supply chain since early 2025. And you need to understand how it connects to the largest corporate fraud investigation the Department of Justice has launched in 8 years. Start with the basics. Nancy Guthrie worked for a mid-sized pharmaceutical distributor called MedSource Logistics based in Columbus. The company handles prescription medications for nursing homes, hospice facilities, and small hospital networks across the Midwest. Revenue last year was $470 million, not a household name, not making headlines, just one of thousands of companies moving medicine from manufacturers to patients. NY's job was compliance verification. She checked that medications ordered by facilities matched medications delivered. She verified billing codes. She ensured federal Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements aligned with actual services provided. It's tedious work. It's invisible work until it isn't. In March 2025, Nancy noticed irregularities in billing submissions from 3 nursing facilities in Southern Ohio. The facilities were ordering significantly higher quantities of controlled substances than their patient census would justify. Oxycodone, fentanyl patches, hydromorphone, the kind of medications that trigger automatic flags in federal monitoring systems, except these weren't triggering flags. Someone had structured the orders to stay just below federal reporting thresholds. Nancy flagged it internally. Her supervisor told her the discrepancies were clerical errors. She was instructed to process the reimbursements she did, but she also started keeping copies. By June, she'd identified a pattern. 17 facilities across Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky were systematically overbilling Medicare for medications that were either never delivered in smaller quantities than billed, or in some cases delivered and then diverted for resale on secondary markets. The scheme was sophisticated.
At Nancy Guthrie's front door. That
you're competing against entities that can undercut your prices because they're billing for services they never provided. You're playing by rules that put you at a financial disadvantage. That's not sustainable. So either enforcement improves or honest operators start cutting corners to compete. Either outcome is bad for patients, and patients are already feeling the pressure. Prescription drug costs increased an average of 4 3% in 2025, not because of manufacturing costs, not because of supply chain disruptions, because every fraudulent claim that gets paid is a cost that gets absorbed somewhere in the system, usually by raising prices or reducing services. Medicare Advantage plans.
So Nancy was collecting evidence. Nancy Guthrie was collecting evidence to take down these giants. This is just why we're playing this. This is very important. This is how the case gets cracked. This is how you crack the case, baby. It's right here. It's right here.
Which cover more than 31 million Americans, have reduced benefits for 2026, fewer dental services, higher copays for specialist visits, stricter prior authorization requirements for expensive medications. Plan administrators cite rising costs. Those costs include the burden of fraud they can't detect, and regulators aren't preventing. The human cost is harder to quantify, but impossible to ignore. Medications diverted from nursing homes don't reach patients who need them. Fake prescriptions filled with substandard or counterfeit drugs put people at risk. And when health care fraud depletes Medicare and Medicaid faster, the programs face insolvency sooner, which means benefit cuts, eligibility restrictions, or tax increases to keep them funded. Nancy Guthrie understood this. According to her sister, interviewed by local media on February 12th, Nancy wasn't motivated by whistleblower rewards or professional advancement. She saw the numbers. She saw what was being stolen. And she saw that nobody else was doing anything about it. So she collected evidence, she documented patterns, she reported it to authorities, and now she's missing.
There's the solution to the case. They went into the home, planted evidence, and they looked for evidence. For her, whatever she had, the documents, the proof, the evidence she had, she was taken probably to a grand jury that was going to probably, lay down an indictment on all these pharmaceutical companies. Nancy was coming up against a $32 billion machine. They took her out. They bought her family. Probably gave them to $100 million, $200 million, and they took her out. That's why she never made it home. Because she was going up against the pharmaceutical companies. She had evidence to take them down. So what happened? They went in and bartered the family. Of course, $100 million, they said for the love of money is the root of all evil. Family goes get family all the time for money. Probably offered $100 million. We need to take your mom out. Okay, so Savannah got on the phone with Annie, and they all set it up, and they commit a crime, and they took Nancy out, the pharmaceutical, because she was collecting evidence, data against people who stole over $32 billion. So this is, once again, let me. For all those who, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to the show. Let me update you on my theory. Okay. Number one is from the beginning. Right? We're going to take you back to the step. We're going to go to the video where they show the timeline, right, of Nancy's death. Let's go back to that. And then we'll come back to that again, and we'll see how it all ties in. So let me go back here. Okay, here we go.
6. All right, so now we get to the night everything changed, Saturday, January 31st, 2026. This is the part where the story goes from normal family evening to something went terribly wrong. And Tommaso Cioni ends up right in the middle of it. Not because he did anything flashy, but simply because he was the last one to see Nancy Guthrie alive and well. Let's walk through what we know from the official timeline the sheriff's office laid out. They even put up a graphic at a press conference on February 5th. It starts around 5:32 p.m. Nancy, who's 84 and doesn't drive much anymore, takes an Uber over to Annie and Tommaso's house in Tucson. That's her older daughter Annie, Savannah's big sister, and her husband Tommaso. They live pretty close, just a few miles away in the Catalina Foothills area. It's a typical family night, dinner, probably some games, or just hanging out, chatting, the kind of thing grandparents love. Nothing out of the ordinary shows up in any reports about that part. Then, later in the evening, Tommaso drives her back home. The exact time gets pinned down pretty tight by the garage door records. The garage door opens at 9:48 p.m. when she arrives. Sheriff Chris Nanos said in multiple statements, including to the New York Times, that Tommaso made sure Nancy got inside safely before he left. The garage door closes 2 minutes later, at 9:50 p.m. That's the last confirmed moment anyone saw.
Now, stay with me. Walk with me, y'all. Let's walk this down. Stay with me. Stay with me. Open up your minds. They said that was the last confirmed, verified that they seen Nancy go in the house, right? How can they verify it when all the cameras were destroyed? They don't even know how the body left the house. Walk with me, stay with me. They don't even know how the cars that took the body away. And here's my theory. Stay with me. Nancy never made it back home. She called the Uber to Annie's house. They probably made dinner, a couple of drinks, gossiping. They spiked her drink. I'm just saying, this is my theory. They spiked her drink. So she got sleepy. She knocked out on a spike. These gentlemen came in, these pharmaceutical people work for the pharmaceutical. They're probably hired hitmen, right? They come in, take her out the back. Boom. And they take her to a place and dispose of her body. During the disposal of the body, they draw blood. They take her pacemaker. They take her Apple Watch, right? And then they hike back down to the residence of Nancy's residence. They're on foot, right? Because they know that if they take a car, the camera's going to pick it up. But if they're on foot, right? If they stay on foot, it's too dark. Nobody can see. The cameras can't see nothing. And so they went back to the Nancy's house to what? Deflect the police. This is what they do. They deflected the police. So they took the blood, planted the blood on the front door, right? On the front porch. But if you looked at the pictures, the blood does not trail out to the street. The blood only sprinkled right there. Right? Then all of a sudden, they've got a picture of this guy destroying cameras. He has gloves on. He has a gun. He got a pistol on him. So anybody who comes in there, it's going to be a shootout, right? So they in there planting evidence and going through Nancy's things, looking for, evidence that she's put up on these pharmaceutical companies. And then they got out of there, right? I mean, that is what makes sense. And then they also, this is why they sent and they're smart, right? These people are smart. This is why they sent the ransom notes. They sent the ransom notes to the news stations because if they had sent the ransom note to the Guthries, it would have connected them. It would have connected all of them. How did they get your information? How do these people know how to get your, how do they know how to get you these type of information? So they went through the news channels, which was smart. Now you can't connect. Now you can't connect the Guthries to them. So now the news channel, they call the FBI, the local police, and say, hey, we got these ransom letters. They read them. And then the sheriffs and the FBI have Savannah and her sister and her brother go up there and talk about, we will pay the $6 million. We'll pay the money. Yeah, of course they will pay. Because they finna probably get 100 million, 200 million. They're gonna split. It's all about the money. That's why everybody was looked at their body language. Even it was like, man, what the hell? These people don't even look like, the family didn't even look like they care. They didn't even look like they care. They didn't no crying, no tears. They just had straight faces. They had death on their face because they were getting paid and they were getting compensated. Now, this is why it's been 12 days why they haven't made any arrests. But they kept going, remember, they kept going back to Annie's house and Nancy's house. Why they keep going back to Annie's house? Because the law enforcement was trying to figure out how the fuck did these kidnappers allegedly get the body out the house and nobody seen a car or truck. There was no tire marks of a heavy vehicle, nothing. What's up, Ignorant TV? And this is where we have the theory that puts it all together. Nancy never made it back to the house. She never made it back to her house. She was drugged, put into another vehicle from Annie's house. That's why they kept going back to Annie's house, because they couldn't figure out why are there no tire marks? Why is this blood only on the front porch? And why there's no blood leaking down the street? Because they planted the evidence. Remember the OJ case? They planted the evidence. It's very simple. All they do is take the blood out of her, go back to the house, make it seem like a crime happened. Right? They put her pacemaker, they took the Apple Watch so they could use that and put that in a letter to the ransomware and say, hey, she has an Apple Watch and she has a pacemaker. That was all a deflection. There is no ransom. They didn't even want the money. That's why they didn't send a ransom letter till 72 hours later. When the kidnapping happens, the ransom note comes almost immediately. Right? Because they don't want, they're letting the family know, we got your phones tapped, we watching you. If the police are called, your mom's gonna die. Get that money to us. You got 30 minutes. You got an hour to wire that money to this Bitcoin account. Boom. They're not going to send the money to a news. They're not going to send a true kidnapper is not going to send the money to the news channel or news station because they know they're going to 100% call the police. That's stupid. You would never get the money. You're going to get caught. 100% you're going to get caught. But it was only a distraction. It was only a distraction to what? Send the police chasing the tail. What are the police doing? They're chasing the tail. They're back at Nancy's house, back at Annie's house, back at Nancy's house. Now they're just posted up at Nancy's house because they don't know what the fuck to do because they're not seeing the big picture. Everything starts back. Let's read this. Now we're going to figure out. Let's go back to this video again. The evidence is right here. And listen to it again. Listen to this video very carefully. Hit the like button. Thank you for coming. We're gonna break this case. We're gonna break this case.
And doesn't drive much anymore. Takes an Uber over to Annie and Tommaso's house in Tucson. That's her older daughter Annie, Savannah's big sister, and her husband Tommaso. They live pretty close, just a few miles away in the Catalina Futhiles area. It's a typical family night, dinner, probably some games, or just hanging out, chatting, the kind of thing grandparents love. Nothing out of the ordinary shows up in any reports about that part. Then, later in the evening, Tommaso drives her back home. The exact time gets pinned down pretty tight by the garage door records. The garage door opens at 9:40.
Remember, they said the garage door records because they had no camera footage of him ever taking Nancy in that house. They only had the garage. The garage opened at 9:48, closed at 9:50. That's all they had. That's all they had. The cameras and everything was destroyed, remember? They didn't figure out she was missing until the next day at church. She didn't come to church. So then the neighbors Like, hey, she didn't come to church. Then that's when they figured out she's missing. So within that time, all the cameras got destroyed. And it was a pretty good idea. Nancy never made it back to that house, homie. That's why, this is a big conspiracy. That's why the son-in-law and Annie got in the car, drove back to Nancy's house, hit the garage door opener, because they knew all the cameras were going to be destroyed. They knew that. They opened the garage door, closed the garage door. Then when the police questioned the son-in-law, he didn't say, oh, me and Annie, we went back. He said, I took her home, made sure she was in the house, and I left. And only verified evidence they had of that was the garage door opened at 9:48 and closed at 9:50. They had no visual verification of this happening because all the cameras were destroyed. And they got lucky that some of the camera picked up some of the residual, and the guy with the glove, and he had the gun on his waist, and he had a ski mask. They got lucky with that because I think some of it caught. But you got to remember, they had no visual evidence of Nancy ever walking in that house. They had no visual verification of Nancy Guthrie walking in her home. It was only, they said the garage door verified it. Who in the hell, when they go home, go to the garage door? You go to the front fucking door. She's 54 years old. She ain't gonna try to walk around the car and try to squeeze. She's going right to the front door, probably got a disabled thing so she could grab on the rail. Her house is probably made like a disabled, right? So when she walks with the walker into the front door, right, they probably have a thing where she can grab on just in case she falls. That's why she goes to the front door. They said the verified address was, they verified that he dropped her off was the garage door opened at 9:48 and closed at 9:50. That was the verification. Now, let's get to the conspiracy of why did Nancy die? Why did who want to kill an old 84-year-old woman? Well, we have people that had interest. So let's go to the next video. We got some very powerful people with a lot of money in the pharmaceutical industry that didn't want to go to jail. And they wanted Nancy out the way because Nancy was being nosy. I mean, that's what white women do, right? So we're going to go to the video. We're going to go to the video and break it down. Let's go back a little bit.
The patients and patients are already feeling the pressure. Prescription drug costs increased an average of 3% in 2025, not because of manufacturing costs, not because of supply chain disruptions, because every fraudulent claim that gets paid is a cost that gets absorbed somewhere in the system, usually by raising prices or reducing services. Medicare Advantage plans, which cover more than 31 million Americans, have reduced benefits for 2026, fewer dental services, higher copays for specialist visits, stricter prior authorization requirements for expensive medications. Plan administrators cite rising costs. Those costs include the burden of fraud they can't detect, and regulators aren't preventing. The human cost is harder to quantify, but impossible to ignore. Medications diverted from nursing homes don't reach patients who need them. Fake prescriptions filled with substandard or counterfeit drugs put people at risk. And when health care fraud depletes Medicare and Medicaid faster, the programs face insolvency sooner, which means benefit cuts, eligibility restrictions, or tax increases to keep them funded. Nancy Guthrie understood this. According to her sister, interviewed by local media on February 12th, Nancy wasn't motivated by whistleblower rewards or professional advancement. She saw the numbers. She saw what was being stolen. and she saw that nobody else was doing anything about it. So she collected evidence, she documented.
Whoop, there it is. Ruthless have solved. Well, I ain't say because I can't make no arrest. I don't know who these people. I don't know if this will be a cold case. This will become a cold case. 100%. They would never catch these people. They're going to keep running with a chicken with his tail cut off, right? Because all the Nancy crime scene, the Nancy's house, is just to deflect. They got them focused on the ransom notes. They got them focused on the guy in the video. And they got them focused on some gloves on the ground, another guy in the video. So I'm here to tell you, until they figure out that Nancy was never in that house, she never set foot in that house again, they're going to be running in circles. They have the crime starts at Annie's house, but they have no proof because somebody else took care of the work, the pharmaceutical. They send their people in it. They probably hired some hitmen from Mexico or wherever, right? From Russia or wherever, right? They probably hired some guys to take care of the job. And that's what happened. So this might be a cold case because it's involving, I'm thinking, 12 to 15 people. Yeah. This was well strategized, well thought out. They know, these people knew how law enforcement thinks. See, the thing about law enforcement, right? They're so predictable, right? They make movies about it. They do the same shit every time. So it's not really hard to kind of figure them out a little. They made a little mistake with the camera gathering data with the guy with the glove and his mask. That guy's probably in Europe somewhere, or probably in somewhere in another country. They're going to hide him. These guys, this companies are worth $32 billion. Have no problem making this guy disappear. They're making the guy disappear. And Nancy was being nosy. She was all in the people business. She was digging in a fight. She picked a fight that she couldn't win. And the sheriff fucked up. He had to Russell. He had him. That's where the case starts with the son-in-law and Annie at Savannah. That's where the case starts. Them three. Trust and believe me when I tell you that the family is in on this with the pharmaceutical companies leading the way. Nancy knew too much. And she was an easy target. She's 84 years old. The pharmaceutical companies probably offered their parents, probably offered the children, maybe Savannah, well, we give you guys $150 million to shut her up, we need to get rid of her. $150 million, and your mom's 84 years old. A lot of people would take that deal. Take her out. All they had to do was a system. All they had to do was one thing: spike her drink. That's it. They spiked her drink at Annie's house, and then these guys came and did what they did. These are hired professionals. Came and did what they did. They took Nancy's body, disassembled it, took blood, took her pacemaker, took her Apple Watch, took it back to the house. While they destroyed, also took all the information that she was gathering on this pharmaceutical company, and they planted blood on the front porch. They left the back door open. They faked the crime scene. And the FBI and the local police fell for it. The Nancy house was just a distraction from the real crime scene. Because think about it. Let's mind this out. Nobody can verify anybody taking that body out the house. Nobody can verify any cars been driven to take the body in the cars, because Nancy never was in that house. Nancy never was in that house. She was in Annie's house. They most likely drugged her. The guys came in, some guys, professional, came in, put her in a car or a van and took her and disposed of the body. Listen, let's go. This is very easy, simple. But the police and the FBI, they're too far in their head, too many people talking in their ear, and they can't focus. But the crime scene is right in front of their face. Annie's house. Check her house. That's why, but they did check her house over and over again. That's why they kept going back, because they were trying to figure out, wait a minute, what's going on? How is this possible? And let's look at the video. We're going to look at the video again, and we're going to see how the video exposes the son-in-law and Annie, how they were involved in this conspiracy. Here we go.
The one solid fact before the chaos. But it also raises questions. Why did the camera get disconnected hours later? Why blood on the porch if she was supposedly safe inside? And why does the guy who says he walked her in become the name everyone whispers about?
Let's go back.
It's a typical family night, dinner, probably some games, or just hanging out, chatting, the kind of thing grandparents love. Nothing out of the ordinary shows up in any reports about that part. Then, later in the evening, Tommaso drives her back home. The exact time gets pinned down pretty tight by the garage door records. The garage door opens at 9:48 p.m. when she arrives. Sheriff Chris Nano said in multiple statements, including to the New York Times, that Tommaso made sure Nancy got inside safely before he left. The garage door closes 2 minutes later, at 9:50 p.m. That's the last confirmed moment anyone saw her or had contact with her. Tommaso drives off, and from there, the house goes quiet. At least, that's how it looked at first. But here's where it starts getting heavy. Early the next morning, Sunday, February 1st, things go sideways fast.
So let's
Around
walk this down.
1:47.
Let's walk this down. Let's walk this down. The confirmation of the son-in-law dropping Nancy off was a garage door open. The garage door opened at 9:48. And then the garage closed at 9:50. They had no visual verification that he actually dropped her off. She never went back to the house. Duh. If you can't verify how the body went out the house, how you verify the body went in the house? Come on. She never made it back home. And I don't think the son-in-law killed her. I think Annie drugged her, and some more people came in and took her body somewhere and disposed of it, took her blood, right? And then they took her Apple Watch. They took her pacer. Okay. They hiked back down because they knew not to take no vehicles. So, and it was very dark outside. So they hiked back to the house. That's why the guy had the backpack on, right? And he had on some comfortable clothes, because They walked there, and they planted the blood on the porch. They created a crime scene, which distracted the police and the federal FBI, and then wrote the fake. These people wrote the fake ransom letters. Let's go. The video gonna tell us some more. He's on to it. This guy's pretty good too.
a.m. The doorbell camera at Nancy's house gets disconnected. Police confirmed that in the same press conference. Then, at 2:12 a.m., the system's motion detection picks up a person near the home. But because the camera was already offline and the footage overwrites itself without an active subscription, there's no video to look at. No faces, no car, nothing. Just a gap. When family checks on her later that morning, she doesn't show.
And who pays all the bills for the subscription of the camera? Annie. She was in charge of that. That was her job, to make sure that the subscription for the cameras was updated to protect her mom. So she didn't pay the bills on purpose. Come on, man. All this was gamed.
Show up for church, which sets off alarms. They go to the house around 11 a.m. By noon, they've called 911. Officers arrive, and that's when they find the blood. Drops of it on the front porch. DNA testing later confirms it's Nancy's. The back door was propped open or left unlocked, depending on which report you read. But either way, signs of force or struggle. The sheriff says she was taken by force sometime after that 9:50 drop-off and before the family arrived the next day. So why does this put Tommaso at the center right away? Simple, he's the last known person to see her alive. He drove her home, waited to see her get inside, and left. That makes him the final point of contact before the hours of darkness where everything happened. In any missing person case, especially one that turns into a suspected abduction, investigators always start with the people closest, and the last person to see the victim is always going to get looked at hard. It's not personal, it's protocol. But here's the thing, being the last person to see someone doesn't automatically make you guilty. It just makes you the first person everyone looks at. And that's exactly what started happening. The sheriff has repeated it over and over, no suspects, no persons of interest named. Yet the timeline keeps circling back to that drop-off. Tommaso told investigators he got her home safe, and the garage door records back him up on the timing. Still, those 4 hours between 9:50 p.m. and 1:47 a.m. are.
But they had no visible evidence that Nancy walked in that house. She never went back to the house. They faked the whole shit. The son-in-law, Annie, all of them in on this shit. Savannah, all of them in on this shit. The son-in-law drove back to the house, hit the garage door opener, closed that motherfucker. They knew. Yes, they do, but the pool is keeping it quiet. Yeah. Well, because they finna get $100 million. The pharmaceutical company stole $32 billion that Nancy had evidence that they did. So they backdoor, they probably got a phone call, Savannah on the phone, say, hey, we give you family $200 million. You gotta take your mom out though. That's the gift. Either you take your mom out or we're taking all y'all out. Pretty simple decision, right? 84 years old, liability, right? $200 million. That sets everybody up for life. That's why it was a no-brainer, right? For them. This is why this all started. Nancy was being nosy. She was in the pharmaceuticals. All the people's paper collected evidence. And let's go. We're gonna go to that video now, right? Let's go to that video so that everybody can be caught up. Welcome to the show. Just hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. Ruthless Truth is at the helm. Welcome to the show. So we're gonna go to the next video, right? Which shows who will have an invested interest to take an 84-year-old woman out. And this video will make this video will make this come true. And will tell you why they took Nancy out.
$1 million Americans have reduced benefits for 2026, fewer dental services, higher copays for specialist visits, stricter prior authorization requirements for expensive medications. Plan administrators cite rising costs. Those costs include the burden of fraud they can't detect, and regulators aren't preventing. The human cost is harder to quantify, but impossible to ignore. Medications diverted from nursing homes don't reach patients who need them. Fake prescriptions filled with substandard or counterfeit drugs put people at risk. And when health care fraud depletes Medicare and Medicaid faster, the programs face insolvency sooner, which means benefit cuts, eligibility restrictions, or tax increases to keep them funded. Nancy Guthrie understood this. According to her sister, interviewed by local media on February 12th, Nancy wasn't motivated by whistleblower rewards or professional advancement. She saw the numbers. She saw what was being stolen. And she saw that nobody else was doing anything about it. So she collected evidence, she documented patterns, she reported it to authorities, and now she's missing.
So there's your motive. There's your motive. There is your motive. She was reporting, she had evidence against $32 billion operation. You think they finna let this old lady take them down? This is why she died. It's all about the money, all about the Benjamins. She was fighting against a $32 billion machine. Probably offered the family between 150, 200 million compensation. That's a lot of freaking money. And, you know, these people are cold-blooded killers, boy. Can't mess with these people. These people, man, people do anything to protect their interests. You know, I know you're going to do the right thing, but and all the law enforcement is chasing the tail. That's all they're doing, chasing the tail. They're chasing the tail. They don't know what hit them. See, they went for the bait, and now they can't escape. If you listen to all the news channels, they're playing the same thing over and over. This guy on the videotape, the backpack, the blood drops, the this, the that, but they don't have the body, and they would never find that body. That body gone. So, you know, was it worth it? I would have did it. I'll mind my own business. Mind my own business. So let's go back to the video. But that's the key to the whole theory. Nancy never set foot in that house again.
Or a black hole. No one knows what happened in Nancy's house during that window. Was there a knock at the door? Did someone she knew come by? Or did the drop-off itself hide something we don't see yet? If you were piecing this together as a detective, that last sighting would be your anchor point, the one solid fact before the chaos. But it also raises questions. Why did the camera get disconnected hours later? Why blood on the porch if she was supposedly safe inside? And why does the guy who says he walked her in become the name everyone whispers about? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Does the drop-off timeline feel too clean to you? Or is it exactly what it seems, a normal ride home that ended with a nightmare starting after he left? I'm reading every one. Which brings us to what happened when police turned their attention to the family house next door. So now the story moves from that dark window after the drop-off straight to the family home, just a few miles away. Because once the blood was confirmed as Nancy's and the abduction label stuck, investigators didn't waste time. They turned to the people closest to her, starting with Annie and Tommaso. And that's when things got really invasive.
And that's where the theory comes in. Nancy never made it back home. She never was in that house again. She was, by the time that morning church, they came to find her, she was gone. Her body's been disposed of. Probably cut up in pieces and disposed of the body. That's probably what these guys play pretty hardball. But the case is Nancy never made it back home. That's the theory. That's why there's blood only on the porch and not anywhere else. They planted the evidence. Whoever these people are with all these hitmen, these people, they create a fake crime scene so that the police can chase the tail. They create the fake ransom letters. All that's fake. They gave not one, but 2 ransoms. All that's fake. All that was just a distraction, deflection. Oh, yeah. Now all you see the police in one place. The police been in one place for 10, 12 days because there's nowhere else they can go because they missed it in the very beginning. How do you say the garage door opened at 9:48 and closed at 9:50 as a verifiable last scene of Nancy? But you have no physical evidence. You have no pictures or no videos of her walking in that house. They never showed a video of her walking in that house at 9:50. They don't have it because all the cameras were destroyed because she never went back to the house. Don't you get it? Y'all get it? There, whoever's doing this has a lot of money. These guys have a lot of money. And they hired some of probably the best in the world. See, like I said, I believe that Nancy took an Uber. I believe that to Annie's house, ate dinner, probably drank some tea, and they probably spiked or poisoned her tea. I don't know. They probably spiked it, and she went to sleep. Then these professionals came in. It was two crews. I believe it was two separate crews, right? Professionals came in, took Nancy from Annie's house, took her to an undisclosed location, dismembered her body, drew blood, took her pacemaker, they took her Apple Watch, took it back to the house. They went on foot, though. They didn't go on car. That's why the police are going crazy, because there's no camera footage, even in the neighbor, because the neighbors had cameras. All the neighbors had cameras. But they can see no footage, even from the neighbors' cameras, of no cars going in and out of there because they was on foot. They hiked it down. These professionals hiked it down to the house, probably went in the back door. Okay. They start making, planting the watch, planting the pacemaker, open the front door, sprinkled the blood. They made a fake crime scene to make it look like a kidnap. That's what the objective. That was their objective, to make it look like a kidnap. And the police went for it. She was not kidnapped. She was taken to be executed. Period. The ransom letters were all a distraction, deflection. The blood on the porch, deflection. Look, the police can't even move from that area because they actually think the body's there. Deflection. All what they're doing now is they're just chasing the tail. They're chasing the tail. The only verifiable evidence they have that Nancy walked in the house was a garage door open. That's it. Nothing on camera, no physical form, nothing. Nobody, no witnesses. Nobody seen her walk in that house. Because she didn't walk in the house never again. She never walked in the house again. She never saw that house again. Annie and the son-in-law delivered her up for sacrifice. And then we want to ask, well, what's the motive? Who had the motive to do this? Who had the motive to want to take Nancy out, right? Who actually want to do this to her? Well, let's see what the pharmaceutical companies have to say, right? Who Annie was gathering evidence against. She was gathering evidence. She was gathering evidence against a very powerful entity. This is who had the motive. This is the motive. We're going to lay down the motive of why Nancy got taken out. Nancy got taken out because she knew too much. She was being nosy, and they didn't like that.
Received a text message at 10:38 p.m. on February 10th. The message came from a number that is no longer in service. The content of the message has not been disclosed, but investigators confirmed it was not from anyone in NY's known contact list. Attempts to trace the number hit a dead end. It was a burner phone activated 3 hours before the message was sent and deactivated shortly after. Digital forensics teams are working through NY's laptop and the cloud storage accounts linked to her work with federal investigators. They've recovered the documents she uploaded the night she disappeared. Those documents allegedly detail financial transactions between MedSource Logistics and companies that don't appear to have legitimate business operations. Shell entities with no employees, no physical locations, and no public F-facing websites, but millions of dollars moving through their accounts. One Shell company registered in Nevada under the name Meridian Health Solutions, LLC, received transfers totaling $8 million from MedSource Logistics between March and November 2025. State records show Meridian Health Solutions has no registered agent, no annual filing since its creation, and no business license in any state where it allegedly operates. The registered address is a mailbox in a Las Vegas strip mall, but bank records show those $8 million were distributed to 12 different accounts across 6 states before being transferred offshore to accounts in the Cayman Islands and BIZ. Following that money is the key to the federal case, not just proving that fraud occurred, but identifying everyone involved and recovering stolen funds. NY's documentation allegedly maps the entire network. Without
NY is Nancy. That's Nancy. That's Nancy. That's who NY is. So Nancy, so let me update everybody. Nancy worked for the billing people. She was collecting evidence of the pharmaceutical companies who were stealing billions of dollars from the government by getting stuff, fake orders, doing generic brands, making it look like generic brands look like they're real, and she had the evidence. Nancy Guthrie was a detective. She was an 84-year-old detective, and she was trying, Nancy was going to take down one of the biggest fraud operations in U.S. history. And now they took her out because they had to get rid of her because she was whistleblower. So this is the motive. Once again, they offered the family probably $100 million. Ladies and gentlemen, the case is, Ruthless has solved the case. And I don't have a law degree. I don't have FBI certificate. Common sense. Common sense. All these super intellectual officers, and they can't. All they have to do is go back to the very first statement from the brother-in-law, and then they would get back on track. That's all they got to do. Go back to the brother-in-law's first statement when he said, when they verify, how did they verify Nancy was taken home? The garage door opened at 9:48 and closed at 9:50. But nobody had nothing on camera because all the cameras were gone. That's what you got to do. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. And they're wasting taxpayer money, resources, chasing a ghost. When your answer is in the son-in-law and Annie, they are your targets of investigation. You need to interrogate them, I'm sure they would break. All you got to do is follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the money. That's where it's at. Anybody understands simple math? If you go to a crime scene and there are no tire tracks, there are no blood that leaks out to the street, there are no visible proof of really struggles, it's a fake crime scene. You got blood drops on the front porch. How do you have blood drops on the front porch and not a trail of blood that goes into the street or into the driveway at least? This is OJ case 101. This is OJ case 101. They went and dropped the gloves so you guys can chase the gloves. And they chasing these damn black gloves. The case is, but they withdrew the blood from her. Watch of the storms, walk to the show. But let me take you. Let's walk with me. Watch the storms. Is it watcher of storms? Okay, watchers of storms. Walk with me. Let's take it. I'm gonna update you. The only verifiable evidence they had Nancy walk in the house was the garage door open at 9:48 and closed at 9:50, meaning they did not have a video verification of her walking into the house. She never made it back to the house, watch of the storms. All this is about the money. This is about the money. They're probably going to get, when this is all done, Savannah, Annie, they're going to probably get like close to $200 million. Yeah, the blood drops were decent size because when they took her to an undisclosed location and dismembered her body, they drew the blood from her. That's why they had the backpack on in the video. They had the blood and all the stuff in there. So that's why the blood drops were decent size, because they planted the evidence. This is OJ 101. This is what made the OJ case famous. You can make a crime scene. You can put together a crime scene. And remember this. Yes, she wasn't there. That's right. Thank you, Watson. There you go, Watson 4. You got it. Now you with me. She never made it back. Because they never, and the sheriff made a big mistake. The sheriff made a crucial mistake when he said the garage door is the only verifiable time. That does not mean she walked in that house. And everybody glossed over that. And then they glossed over this. Nancy was collecting evidence on one of the pharmaceutical companies who stole over $37 billion or $32 billion. She was going up against a $32 billion machine. You think they're not going to hire no hitman to take you out, and you trying to put them in jail? you trying to whistleblow their operation? So they hired some hitmen. Come in. They offered the family a substantial amount of money, an undisclosed amount, of course. That's why they said they'll pay the $6 million ransom. They're talking to the pharmaceutical company. They said, if you show us proof of life, we will pay you. There no one going to be no proof of life. But if the police would have instructed Guthrie them to pay the $6 million, they would have paid the $6 million, no problem, because they finna get 100-something million. They finna get a very large, substantial amount of money. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. That's why everybody looked at their body language and said, these people act like they don't even care. Facts. Fact, it was off because they was all looked like they was faking. When they was reading, oh, we'll pay the ransom, bring our mother back so we can celebrate with her. Celebrate what? That 100 million they finna get. Yeah, they finna get 100 mil. Yeah. Listen, that pharmaceutical company break them off 100 million for her life. Remember, for the love of money is the root to all evil. Nancy never made it back to her house, homie. She was dead already before she was in some other undisclosed location. That's why they keep going back to Ann's house. They go back to Annie's house because they're trying to figure out how the fuck do you only have blood drops on one part of the house. Nowhere else on the street, nowhere else in the house, only on the front porch. And you got all these FBI super smart dudes, super duper educated dudes. You got these sheriffs with all the experience and can't figure out, well, if you only got blood on one part of the house and you're assuming that she was kidnapped, so that means her body would have to be carried and the blood would have leaked all the way in the street to the driveway. Come on, how hard is that to figure out? She never made it back to the house. That blood was planted. OJ 101. And then the Apple Watch was planted. The police, all they did was took it off of her and put it back to the house. They created a fake crime scene. This is what these professionals did. You see the dude had a gun in the pic in that camera. You see he had a gun on him. These were professionals, man. These dudes were trained assassins. This is what they do. Cleanup man. They came to clean up the pharmaceutical mess, which was Nancy, who was building a case against the pharmaceutical company for stealing $32 billion plus dollars. And the gig was going to be up. And she went up against the machine, the $32 billion machine. And the FBI and the sheriffs are chasing a $32 billion machine. That means these people got a lot of money to hide evidence. You were never going to get to them. This is probably involved like 20, 30 people. This is a conspiracy, man. This ain't just no normal 2-3 kidnappers. No, this is a hit. It was a planned hit. They came to take Nancy out. They didn't want no ransom. That was just, once again, deflection. The ransom was a deflection. That's all the ransom was. Because think about it. If you're kidnapping someone, you're not sending it to the news station. You're not sending it to TMZ because you know they're calling the cops. And the federal government's going to jump in. And you're going to take $6 million and the federal government sitting on top of you? Who do some dumb shit like that? That's some dumb shit. And not only did they send one, they sent two. No kidnapper does that. Kidnappers don't send two letters. They're going to send you one motherfucking letter. Yes, but he wants you to see. He wants you to see the weapon. He wants you to see the weapon, so you can chase this. They're chasing the tail. That's all the Fed. Look at. They have been in one house for 12 days. One area for 12 days. Nancy's body's not even close. Not even close to that. They'll probably never find that. They can lock that to the game because they probably put her in something like and put acid so her shit could be, so they dispose of the body. They didn't just bury it in the ground. These guys, these people, these are trained professionals. So they understand how the FBI and all the police forces work. They understand these things. So they knew they had to dispose of that body. No body, no case. Yeah, they trying to chase a backpack. They wasting time. They're wasting valuable resources. I'm gonna tell you where the case is at. This is where they need to go. They need to go and interrogate the fuck out of Annie and her husband. That's where your case is at. That's where it started. That's where you have to go back to. Come on, man. Used to be FBI, CIA, DEA. Y'all ain't figured that out yet? You go back to the source. They were the last ones to see her alive. And that means what? They had to be the ones to hand her off to get executed. Now, I'm telling you this, they didn't do the work. They didn't actually kill her. They gave her to some other guys. And the other guys, they took her out and disposed her. I believe Annie spiked her drink, laughing, talking, put some maybe spiked it or something, and she knocked out. And then these guys came into the house, grabbed the body, put her in the van, and we won't see her no more on this earth. And the evidence is right in this video. Let's go watch the video again. Watch the video. The video gives you, it's pretty simple. I mean, I figured it out before I watched the video. I was just thinking to myself I was in my car on the way home, and I said, why? What's missing here? The body. How come they can't find the body? Because Nancy never entered that place again. She never entered that home again. The brother-in-law staged, pretended like he was taking her home. All he did was pretty simple. Open the garage, close the garage. That's all he did. Open the garage and close the garage. And they said the police said that was a verified time Nancy went in the house. But they have no video recording her walking in that house. They have no witnesses seeing her walk in that house. All they have is the garage door open for 2 minutes. How could you say that's a verified? How are you going to say that's a verified? I can't verify that. So what? Anybody can open a garage door and say, oh yeah, I put some. Come on. How did you fall for the okie doke? Come on, Sheriff, you that stupid? You that stupid? All you know is the garage door corroborated. The garage door corroborated the last time Nancy walked into the house, but you have no video of her walking into that house. You have no witnesses saying they saw her walk into the house. Is this why they're paying all these sheriffs all this money in Pima, Arizona? The Fed, the FBI haven't figured this out. With TMZ, ain't that dude a lawyer and he ain't figured this shit out? How did Ruthless do this? I don't have a law degree. I don't have a law degree. I don't have a law degree. I have a hood degree. So we're gonna look at the video one more time.
And Tommaso Cioni ends up right in the middle of it. Not because he did anything flashy, but simply because he was the last one to see Nancy Guthrie alive and well. Let's walk through what we know from the official timeline the sheriff's office laid out.
Good question. Good question. Let me see. Welcome to the show. Who is 10 and 65. Okay. Why install camera and not pay for a subscription? Because Annie was in control of that. She knew that this was all a conspiracy, homie. Annie didn't pay the subscription. because they all had a night that it was going to go down. All this was planned. This was not something that they just at last minute just, oh, let's do this. No, they planned this shit out probably for like 3 to 4 months. Yeah, they have some professionals come in and they told them what to do. This is all you got to do. That's why Annie didn't pay the subscription on the camera. Annie paid all the bills. She drives down to her mom's house. She makes all sure the bills are paid, the light, the electric, all that. Annie was in control of that. And she on purposely not paid the subscription to those cameras because she knew that this night in question was bound to happen. With the foot traffic, the person when caught will say the crime scene was compromised. The crime scene was compromised because it wasn't real. Yeah, the OJ, that's the OJ 101. OJ 101, right? That's how OJ beat his case. Mark Furman and all them cops are planting evidence, made a fake crime scene. This is OJ 101, baby.
Even put up a graphic at a press conference on February 5th. It starts around 5:32 p.m. Nancy, who's 84 and doesn't drive much anymore, takes an Uber over to Annie and Tommaso's house in Tucson. That's her older daughter Annie, Savannah's big sister, and her husband Tommaso. They live pretty close, just a few miles away in the Catalina Foothills area. It's a typical family night, dinner, probably some games, or just hanging out, chatting, the kind of thing grandparents love. Nothing out of the ordinary shows up in any reports about that part. Then, later in the evening, Tommaso drives her back home. The exact time gets pinned down pretty tight by the garage door records. The garage door opens at 9:48 p.m. when she arrives. Sheriff Chris Nano said in multiple statements, including to the New York Times, that Tommaso made sure Nancy got inside safely before he left. The garage door closes 2 minutes later, at 9:50 p.m. That's the last confirmed moment anyone saw her or had contact.
So there it is right there. There it is right there. Y'all see it, right? Before Ruthless figured it out. How is the garage door opening for 2 minutes saying that somebody walking in the house? Right? See, it's right there in front of their police face. It's right there in front of their face, and they can't see it because they got too many chiefs and not enough Indians. It's right there in front of their face. All they have to do is go back to this video right here. And then this will put them back on the right track. If you had a garage open for 2 minutes, how is that verifying somebody walking in the fucking house? You have no video evidence. You need a visual. You ain't got no witnesses saying that, oh, we saw Nancy walking. Yeah, we seen her walk in yeah, we saw her get out the car and go to the garage. Did you have no video evidence because it was destroyed? The subscription wasn't paid. Annie didn't pay the subscription because she was part of the conspiracy. It's all right here. Yep, exactly. He had a garage door opener. He took it out of her purse. Listen. Yes, facts. So listen, when they knocked her, let's follow, walk with me, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you for coming to the show. We appreciate you. Welcome to Ruthless Truth, because my truth is ruthless, and I cracked the fucking case. You heard it here first. Let me tell you something. When they were over there, when Annie, her husband, Nancy, they were probably having conversation, laughing, talking. I believe Annie drugged Nancy's drink. Nancy passed out. on the couch or wherever she was at. And right when she passed out, that's why, old people don't go in at 9:50, 10 o'clock. Old people go to bed early. They go to bed 8, 7:30. But they drugged her drink. I believe this is a theory. They drugged her drink. These two guys, probably these professionals, came in, scooped her body up. She was out cold, put her off in the van, right? Put her in the van and took her to an undisclosed location. Follow me. Now, the son-in-law, they told the son-in-law, they gave him instructions. You need to drive the car to the house. They took out her purse. Before they took her, they took out her purse, her Apple Watch, her pacer, garage door opener. Yes, I think that's what it is, 10 and 65. That's how they got it. That's how they got it. That's why they kept, that's why the investigation kept going back to Nancy. Then they would go back to Annie's house because the police couldn't figure out, because they didn't have they couldn't verify that Nancy actually walked into her house. They couldn't verify that she walked into her house. That's why they kept going back. The FBI kept saying, go back, find Annie. That's why they kept going back to Annie's house collecting evidence. Because they were trying to figure out what the fuck, is there anything we can prove other than a garage door opener to prove that and verify that Nancy walked into that house? Because once again, it don't make sense that the blood was only on the front door porch right there. That don't make sense. It don't make sense that they carried the body out the house, supposedly kidnapped, and there was no car spotted. No car tracks of a different car other than the car of the stepson. I'm telling you, this is a conspiracy, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. We have ourselves, the police are chasing a ghost. The police are they're running around with their head. It's been almost 13 days. Because they're too far ahead. They're too far ahead of the case. They got to slow it down and go back to the beginning. And then when they go back to the beginning, which is what? The ghost is Nancy. They're looking for the body. They're doing a search spot for the body. Nancy is long gone, man. These guys, see, this is what you guys got to understand. Susie Oldie, walk to the show. These guys are up against a $32 billion entity. These people got a lot of fucking money and resources to make this shit disappear. We're going to play a game called Disappear. The guy on the camera. Yes. Yeah, the OG sheriff, I think he felt his gut feeling that they didn't do it, but a garage door open 2 minutes and that was a verification. I wouldn't went for that. I need, if I'm the sheriff, I need a video evidence or an eyewitness for this to be verified. Other than the brother, other than the son-in-law. I need somebody other than the son-in-law to corroborate. Yes, I need somebody else to corroborate that they seen Nancy go in that house. Ain't no, I'm not going to take no guy. Oh, yeah, I made sure she went in. Okay, I need something else. Let's get a video. I need a video. And now I'm going to have to detain you. Or I'm going to have to ask you or take you out and interrogate you. I do not believe a garage door opener, a garage door that opens and closes for 2 minutes is enough to say Nancy walked in that house. She never went back in that house, gentlemen and ladies. Yes, who's this? There's a G Ghostface. Hey, let me see. Nancy Ubered her there after her grandkids went in his room. They called and wink, Uber. G Hope in underwear. She riding with killer. Tomosi rolls over and opens the garage, drop off watch, fake scene later. And then the other guy they got good job. G goes, good job. Good fucking job. And you, G Ghostface, you got a college degree in this? You use a FBI agent? And the police can't figure this shit out? Facts. How was the garage door opening for 2 minutes verified? By whom? Tommaso, yes. And then they also went they got a timer on the garage door as well that they can show that the garage door opened. But that doesn't mean nothing. You don't need you can open the garage, close the job, and nobody ever going through that motherfucker. You in for that? Come on, I know the sheriff couldn't be that simple. So we have here, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the show. Subscribe, hit the like button on the way in the door, take off your shoes, relax, because we're going to walk this down. We're going to walk this down. So let's slow down a little bit. Let's not do like the officers, right? Let's slow down. Step one, Nancy, maybe they get her Uber over there, like my man G Ghostface said, an Uber. Nancy gets an Uber to Annie's. They talk her into coming, like, hey, won't you come over and chill, sis? We want to talk to you. Haven't seen you in a minute. We talk about, okay. She said, okay. So she gets an Uber, come over there, and they get to talking to her, and they're giving her drink. They spike the drink. They spiked the drink. So she's drinking her normal drink, probably some tea or maybe, some smoothie or something. Whatever, maybe some vodka. I don't know. But they spiked her drink. She passes out cold. They go and open the door. The professionals come in. There's these professionals. There's these hitmen. They come in, take her out the back door. Put her in some sort of vehicle and take her to an undisclosed location. And then Tereso, the son, her husband, Annie's husband, proceeds to go to the house to make sure he opens the garage door, close the garage door, probably got out, walked a few steps to the door, to make it look legit. Goes back to the car. And goes back home. Bam. Then at an hour or so later, the professionals, they're smart, right? They hike down to the house. So when they took Nancy's blood to the undisclosed location, they drew her blood. This is OJ 101. Yeah, she never made it back. She never made it back. Thank you, Sue. Yeah, Sue, you smart. You smart, Sue. Thank you. That's what I figured out. She never made it back to the house. Thank you, Sue. She never made it back. But the only reason the police are stuck in a mud hole because they did not verify that. They just said the garage door open for 2 minutes. And that was it. Yes, Sue. Let me highlight that. So do you think Nancy ever made it? No, she didn't make it back. She never made it back to that house. She was gone. She was dead, probably. And then the guy that was on the camera, that's what he was doing. He was there to create a crime scene. That's why they destroyed all the cameras, to make sure. They knew Annie already told them that she didn't pay the subscription, but they wanted to make sure. So they destroyed all the cameras that they could. And they kind of messed up because they still got him on camera trying to cover up a camera. But that guy had a gun on him. So these were professional hit people. These people were hired by the pharmaceutical company. Yes. These were the top of line professionals, ladies and gentlemen. So they made an elaborate plan here. So when they came behind Annie's husband, that's when they planted the blood on the front porch. They planted that. Come on. They put the Apple Watch. Then they put the pacemaker, right? They created a crime scene, and then they made it look like a kidnapping. They sent ransom notes in to the news station, which that is the dumbest shit in the world. But it was smart because it did the job. It distracted. It took them from the actual crime, right, of murder. This was a hit, murder for hire. This is the actual crime, ladies and gentlemen. We have a murder for hire here. Plot involving between 15 to 20 people, including the Guthries. All Guthries are involved from Savannah on down. Yes, this is big. But the case, if the FBI asks me and the sheriff come to me and ask me, Ruthless, what do you think we should do? I'll tell them we're going to take Annie and her husband, interrogate them for 48 hours. And there are all your answers right there. Why would anyone want off Nancy? Good question. And now we're going to find out, because we're going to get the tape. We got the video proof. You know, Nancy Sue, she was collecting evidence against the pharmaceutical companies for overbilling and fraud during the pandemic, stealing over $32 billion from the government. That's why they want to take her out. And I got the proof right here. I got proof to back that up. Yes, indeed.
Office. The drawer was pried open. Nothing else in the house was disturbed. No signs of struggle in the room. On February 10th, 2026, surveillance footage emerged from a quiet residential street in Columbus, Ohio. The video shows a figure approaching the home of Nancy Guthrie, a 84-year-old pharmaceutical compliance officer who disappeared on January 28th. The timestamp reads 11:47 p.m. The person moves with deliberate caution, checking the street before stepping onto the property. 38 seconds later, the figure exits the frame. Nancy Guthrie has not been seen since that night. This case landed on the national radar not because of the video itself, but because of what investigators found inside NY's home 3 days after she vanished. Financial documents spread across her dining room table, bank statements showing systematic transfers, communications with federal agencies, and a handwritten ledger tracking what appears to be fraudulent insurance claims totaling nearly $2 million across a pharmaceutical distribution network spanning 7 states. The Columbus Police Department confirmed this morning they've identified a person of interest captured in the surveillance footage. They have not released a name. They have not made an arrest. But according to sources within the investigation speaking on condition of anonymity, the individual in that video is connected to a corporate entity that Nancy Guthrie had been gathering evidence against for the past 11 months. To understand why this
And whoop, there it is, Sue. There's your motive. There's your motive. They stole over $32 billion. And she was gathering evidence to take these people down. So they took her out. Whoop, there it is. Ruthless figured it out. Ruthless figured it out. Subscribe to the channel. Matter of fact, donate stuff to the channel. Because Ruthless put y'all up on game. I brought clarity and strength to this case. I brought logic, reasoning, and a sound mind to this case. All these high-paid FBI agents, DEA, CIA, NIA, all these high-paid sheriffs could not figure this shit out. But if you do the research, Nancy, that's what she did. That might have been an AI version because they don't want to get killed, right? Can't put a real person up there. You see that they did to Nancy. You can imagine what they're going to do to her, right? Because she has nothing to do. Sue, you know, old people, they're bored. They love to get in and find things out. They love it. It's part of it. They have nothing else to do. You know, Sue, you know the person you don't want to get mad at you. If you're working, let's say you're a waitress, you do not want old people to get mad at you because why? They have the time to write that complaint. Because they're all over the place, right? They got too many chiefs and not enough Indians down Crossy. They got too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel. Ruthless is bringing y'all the best news station on the internet. I think I'm going to name it Crime Cracker. That's what I'm going to rename my channel, the Crime Cracker. This is what I do. This is what I do. I've done it so many times before, right? I figured out the OJ case. I figured out the Diddy. I figured all that stuff out. This is what I do. And I figured this shit out today. I figured before I even seen all this information, I figured Nancy, she could have never had left. She was never in that house again. I knew it. I said, that's why they're stuck in that one place, because they think that because they can't prove that the body was taken out of there. Okay. You want to play it again? Okay, I'll play it again. I'll play it again. The Rachel Maddie. Is that what that is?
Matters beyond one missing woman in Ohio. You need to understand what's been quietly building in America's pharmaceutical supply chain since early 2025. And you need to understand how it connects to the largest corporate fraud investigation the Department of Justice has launched in 8 years. Start with the basics. Nancy Guthrie worked for a mid-sized pharmaceutical distributor called MedSource Logistics based in Columbus. The company handles prescription medications for nursing homes, hospice facilities, and small hospital networks across the Midwest. Revenue last year was $470 million, not a household name, not making headlines, just one of thousands of companies moving medicine from manufacturers to patients. NY's job was compliance verification. She checked that medications ordered by facilities matched medications delivered. She verified billing codes. She ensured federal Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements aligned with actual services provided. It's tedious work. It's invisible work until it isn't. In March 2025, Nancy noticed irregularities in billing submissions from 3 nursing facilities in Southern Ohio. The facilities were ordering significantly higher quantities of controlled substances than their patient census would justify. Oxycodone, fentanyl patches, hydromorphone, the kind of medications that trigger automatic flags in federal monitoring systems, except these weren't triggering flags. Someone had structured the orders to stay just below federal reporting thresholds. Nancy flagged it internally. Her supervisor told her the discrepancies were clerical errors. She was instructed to process the reimbursements she did, but she also started keeping copies. By June, she'd identified a pattern. 17 facilities across Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky were systematically overbilling Medicare for medications that were either never delivered in smaller quantities than billed, or in some cases delivered and then diverted for resale on secondary markets. The scheme was sophisticated. Invoices matched purchase orders. Delivery confirmation showed driver signatures. Electronic health records showed prescriptions written by licensed physicians. Every box checked, every form filed. But Nancy found the gaps. Delivery trucks arriving at facilities outside normal business hours, signature patterns that repeated across multiple locations, prescription patterns from physicians who, according to state medical boards, had reduced patient loads or retired months earlier, and financial transfers between MedSource Logistics and a network of shell companies registered in Delaware and Nevada. She took her findings to the Ohio Attorney General's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit in August. They opened a preliminary inquiry. By October, the case had been escalated to the Department of Justice Criminal Division Fraud Section. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of Ohio convened a grand jury in November. This is where the story intersects with something much larger. Because while Nancy Guthrie was documenting fraud in Ohio, federal investigators across the country were building cases against similar schemes in pharmaceutical distribution, medical equipment billing, and home health care services. The common thread was pandemic-era regulatory relaxations that were supposed to be temporary, but created permanent.
Yeah, probably just a little office dog, you know what I mean? The old people, they get bored. They'll sit around all day, be miserable. Just a little office job. She did medical billing, simple. Wasn't like no hard labor. There's your motive. So we have a motive. So the question is, why would Savannah, Annie, the brother, and Annie's husband, why would they do this? Why would they be a part of this? I'm thinking, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me? Give me one if you can hear me. I think they were offered a substantial amount of money to take her mother out. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. They probably offered her like $100 million just to take her mom out. We're going to give you $100 million. We're going to bring in these people, and we're going to make sure you guys get away with it. Our people, we just need y'all to do this one thing. Get her to the house, drug her. Okay, thank you. All right. Drug her, and we'll do the rest. That's it. The ransom notes, the people sent the ransom notes. The people created the fake crime scene. They dropped the gloves on the ground. And the police is eating it up. FBI eating it up. Deflection. The ransom notes are deflection. They're so far away from the crime scene that they don't even know. They're not even close. This is why they keep trying to talk. Well, they're trying to chase a backpack. Yeah, but if you get they offer you $200 million and y'all split it, that'll set you for life right there. She might be worth $40 million on paper, but not in liquid. Like she like property, she probably got different things. But hey, you offer somebody, hey, we give you $150 million to take your mom out because she's in our way. Let's look how unserious they look. Let's look how unserious they look. Let's go. Let's look at their faces. You could tell that they didn't even care. Let's look at it. Hold it. Let's go. Let's go back. Let's go over here. Let me see where they at. They didn't look like, where's that picture? I got a picture. I thought I had it here. Here, right here. Look how they look. Let's see. Look how. Look how they look so, they didn't even care. Look how this is interesting. Watch. Wait till I get this picture. I'm gonna get it right now. Look how they look. They look like they don't even give a fuck. Look how they look. Let me put the picture. I'm sorry. I still got the old picture up. My bad, y'all. My bad. Look how they look. They don't even look like they're sad and they miss their mom or nothing. They just look like whatever. They don't even care.
Manifester. You know, that positive, supportive vibe where someone believes in manifesting good things through mindset. She even said he writes poetry through his lifestyle. Sounds like the kind of guy who
I got better. I want to get the hold up. Hold on, we're gonna get the speech. We're gonna pull up the speech. Here we go, right here. I'm gonna bring it right now. We're gonna look how slumbered they sound. They didn't even sound like, man. I was like, damn. That's how you feel about your mom?
Good evening. I'm Corey Coffin. We're coming on the air with Mother. Let's listen in.
And celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace.
Now, police have been looking
Us and have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
They don't even
Now,
look
police
here.
have been looking for Nancy Guthrie for more than a week now.
They
She
don't
was
care.
last seen last.
They don't even care. She said, "We will pay. We will pay." The video frozen? Can y'all see me? Let me do it again. Let's go back.
Message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Now, police have been looking for Nancy Guthrie for more than a week now. She was last.
She didn't even sound for real. We will pay. We will pay. We will pay. That does not sound like a daughter who really cares about her mother. She's just going through the motions. This is a breaking news. Breaking news. Nancy Guthrie never set foot in that house again. That is the breaking news. She never, that's a fake crime scene. And all the stuff that, yeah, we pay, we will pay. That sounded so robotic. She's saying it like she know. I'm just saying it because I know she did. They know what's up. They're part of all of them is all this is a conspiracy. Yep. I'm bet you they got 100, 200 million. It's quite a bit of money. They probably got 100 million. They're going to split that shit 50 million apiece. That she get 50 and Annie and her husband going to get 50 mil. That's light work for them. Well, I know I'm right, Sue. I know I'm right. It's the only way to. This is why the police keep going in circles, because they're missing. They're so far ahead of the case, and their heads are so far up their ass. They don't know how to slow it down. They don't know how to take their time anymore. You got this different squad unit coming in. You got this K9 unit coming in. Then you got drones. Then you got this specialty. Then you got, so now you're chasing ghosts, right? You're chasing black gloves. You're chasing a man on a film who's with a mask, whose face is covered. Essentially, that's all you got. That's all you got. You stop your traffic stop. You detain a man and try to like punk him into saying he did the shit because here's the deal, right? Here's the deal. There's a lot of pressure on this case to get solved. Nancy's son as SUSF fighter, pilot, not a rich man. Facts. And they ain't gonna pay. They're just going through the motion. They finna get that 200, probably 150 million, 250, 200 million payment that's going to be that is going to be maybe in Bitcoin. They're going to get paid. They finna get paid. Mom, they sacrificed their mom. Hey, mom wanted to know the truth. Mom wanted to know the truth. And it kind of cost her because she went up against a $32 billion machine. And these people got a lot of money. Yeah, they got a lot of money. 32 billion. And you're trying to take them down. They're going to come take you out. That's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Let's go. Let's see. Let's see. This is some more.
Seen last Saturday, dropped off by family at her home in Tucson, Arizona. NBC News' Dana Griffin is on the ground in Tucson for us. And Dana, bring us up to speed on the latest in this investigation.
Yes, so Corey, the latest is last night we saw investigators return to Nancy Guthrie's home where they spent a lot of time collecting new potential evidence. There's video showing them on the roof, on the grounds, literally searching every inch of that property. Now, investigators have not revealed why they went back or if they found anything of significance, but it's important because it shows that this is still a very urgent and a very dire investigation. Investigators yesterday also confirmed a new message that was received, and they say that message was not necessarily a ransom note, but it detailed something that was critical for them to investigate. And so investigators are now trying to piece together the last movements. We heard from Circle K, one of the convenience stores in town. They put out a statement saying that investigators had come to one of their gas stations located on a road that is just maybe a few miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. We have not confirmed exactly which Circle K gas station, but the company said that they turned over surveillance video to investigators after they received a tip. Now, investigators say they have not identified a vehicle connected to this crime, nor have they identified a suspect or a person of interest. Tonight, a new message.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Nancy Guthrie's family pleading for her return nearly a week after she was reported missing. Authorities overnight back at Nancy Guthrie's Tucson home. Drone video showing FBI agents searching every inch of the property, disconnecting and removing a device from the roof, and climbing up a ladder into dense vegetation. A vehicle believed to be Nancy's towed away. As renewed activity shut down roads near her home, reaction from the highest levels of government. President Trump last night on Air Force One.
We have some clues, I think, that are very strong, and I think we could have some answers coming up fairly soon.
Investigators looking for potential clues in a second note sent to the same Tucson TV station that received a ransom note through their anonymous tip line earlier this week. What was your reaction?
I did not enjoy receiving that. I did not know that we were going to be the communication platform.
Authorities have not said what's in it, if it's connected to the first note, or if either is legitimate.
There is something in there that we believe they're trying to convey. This is the same people.
I see. We know this, something that only the family would know, I'm assuming.
Something like that.
The news director sharing the latest note was not a ransom demand and did not include proof of life. NBC News asked the Pima County Sheriff if Nancy's pacemaker could prove she's alive. He said it's not definitive.
It's a tool, but I don't know that it ever will tell you she's alive or not.
So Annie, let me find out. Annie okay, so Annie Tomico is her. Okay, Annie, a private educator. Annie Guthrie is a private educator. Teacher, she's a teacher. I think a private teacher. And the husband so with the husband, I think the husband he just does a lot of music. He's Yeah, he writing music. Yeah, he's a music writer, something like that. So yeah, he was just like a musician who wrote music. She was a teacher, and he was a teacher, a private teacher though. And her husband, Tomoso, was a music writer and I think he played an instrument. That's what they did for money. Believe me, 200 million. They can go to Italy. They go trips around the world for the next 5-6 years. Tell you, hey, that kind of money, that moves shit. You got $32 billion and you want something done, you can buy damn near anybody. Money turns families against families all the time. This ain't nothing new. While I'm in the stream, thank y'all for coming. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. And Ruthless will be back. I'm gonna do a part 2 of this. And we're gonna follow this case all the way through and watch these dumb police officers and federal agents make all these dumb mistakes. And just gonna see what they do. Thank you for coming. Thank y'all for coming to the show. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button on your way in the door. Take off your shoes. Thank you guys. And Ruthless is out.